Okay, hey you guys, welcome to the 97 demo, where we typically give you the latest in music news a whole bunch along the way. This week we're doing the same thing, but with a topic that's a little bit just harder, definitely sadder. And it's of course about the Astroworld tragedy that happened last Friday in Houston at Travis Scott's Astrofest. So if you don't know, basically on Friday night, during Travis Scott's performance at the festival, there seemed to have been a crowd surge, which basically means there was way too many people in the venue space than there should have been. And as a result, it was harder to breathe, super hot, hard to escape the crowd once you're in. And then with mosh pits, just not exactly the best of circumstance. We know so far, at least by the end of Friday night, 8 people died. A 9th person had died as well recently. There was, I believe, 25 hospitalizations, including just about half of those were like for cardiac arrest. More than like 300 people were treated on site at a on-site hospital, field emergency tent that they had on set. And it just basically was a really disastrous situation. I believe like there's a victim as young as 9 years old who's currently in the hospital with like life-threatening injuries. So this is something that hurt a lot of people, a lot of young people who just went out for a festival, something all of us have done, or went out to a concert and now, are either fighting for their lives, or if you were there, you may be traumatized. It just a really sad situation overall. So I figured it's definitely something that we knew we wanted to talk about. We decided maybe not the traditional sense we do our episode. So don't really think we'll have a new releases for you. Don't really think we'll have headlines or product of the week. We figured this sort of constitutes its own individual standalone conversation. So we're going to get into all that. First, of course, I'm Nnamdi, joined by my 2 co-hosts,
Noah
and Avery.
So we're going to be talking to 2 people who are actually at Astrofest a little bit later in the show. And they're just going to give us a detailed account of what happened from a first-person view, because I think no matter how much reporting you read, it definitely helps to talk to someone who's actually there. But first, I figured we could sort of have a conversation about, the background of this, maybe do any analysis that we can. Mind you, we're not contra safety experts, so we only can go off the reporting we've read and things we've seen, but sort of establish the background before that interview. I've sort of divvied up, I wrote about this in our newsletter this week, and I sort of divvied it up like accountability in like 3 spheres. Like there's the Houston Police Department, I feel, there's festival organizers, and then there's like Travis and his team. I think failures throughout from all of those people probably led to what we saw. I start with Houston Police because 2 days, or like 2 to 3 days after this show happened, after this tragedy, where people literally died, the Houston Police put out a statement, the Chief Troy Finner, basically saying, we warned him, essentially, like we warned him that things could get crazy. So, if you have any questions, just so you know, we gave them a heads up. The specific statement, of course, just basically saying I met with Travis Scott and the head of security for a few moments last Friday prior to the main event. I expressed my concerns regarding public safety, and that in my 31 years of law enforcement experience, I've never seen a time with more challenges, namely the pandemic, social tension, all that stuff. He then continues to say, I asked Travis and his team to work with Houston Police Department for all events over the weekend and to be mindful of his team's social media messaging on any unscheduled events. The meeting was brief and respectful. So this statement came out on Monday. The actual incident happened on a Friday. And I remember seeing this and immediately thinking, okay, so we should probably give a little bit more scrutiny to police. Because I don't know, I think it says something when, that's the statement you put out 3 days after, sort of saying we warned him.
Unfortunately became a theme throughout that, this last week of like, felt like the police sort of deflecting blame, even up to like them coming out with a statement saying that someone was injecting people like very discreetly in the neck because there was an officer who said that he was injected with something and was being treated with Narcan. And so
then they walked back.
Yeah, which they eventually walked back. So this theme of like deflecting blame from the police, unfortunately, kind of was very prevalent throughout the last week.
And that's just unfortunate because like it's no one person's fault. It's kind of like the overall everything failed on all fronts because people died. Like from the people who work there. Like there were kids asking for help and people didn't help. Security, Travis Scott, like the police, everybody has a hand in this, and it's not one person's or one side's fault necessarily. So it's just an overall failure on all fronts.
Yeah, so. And I think I've listened to different press conferences from Troy Finner, that's the police chief, and it's interesting because in one breath he'll say, it's too early to point a finger at anyone. You can't pass any blame. But then in the next, he'll say things like, well, we had 500 police officers out there. Live Nation was supposed to handle private security, for the actual mosh pit. So, if that's where things went, essentially saying if that's where things went down, that's where you should be looking. And I sort of think it kind of goes with this theme of like, it's fascinating to see police come out so early on the defensive, not really like saying, let's take time, I'm not going to say anything, but the little you are saying is just pointing the finger at other people. And the questions that I just immediately asked after seeing this is, look, if you warned them beforehand that something could go wrong, why was there no action that went along with those concerns? Why was it not? If you were really concerned about the challenges of our time, maybe people being riled up, if you're really concerned about his team's messaging, maybe that implies that you are aware of what these concerts can become. Why was there no, so look, I want to see extra security stationed here and here. I want to see water stations here, here, and here. I want us to make sure we have additional, entry and exit posts here and here. I want to make sure we have an extra medical tent. Like there was no action, which is why coming out so like with that statement so early was just jarring because there's no action with it. Like what's essentially the benefit? So what do you guys think what's the benefit for him to come out on sort of the offensive this early?
It's just like like Noah said, just like literally, this isn't, it's just trying to distance yourself from the tragedy, right? And like, like, oh, well, this wasn't our fault, but everyone else, or like we tried to warn them. And like to both your points, like why wasn't anything done? And not even just like day of, this was like in the months leading up to this, like Travis Scott's one of the biggest artists in the world. It's been 2 years since he's done this festival. Like, why was it in the same venue that it was 2 years ago, right? Especially like if you're going to bring up the pandemic as a concern, why wasn't it in a larger space where people could like spread out a little bit more? And if they're going to like, why did they sell that many tickets? Stuff like that, right? Like it wasn't just, hey, day of, we did everything we could, or week of, we did everything we could. Like, why wasn't this accounted for in the months leading up to the festival? They had 2 years to plan this, I guess, right? So
yeah. Also the thinking that like this isn't gonna happen to us type thing. Like you think before this happened, people would say like, one of the things about going to a Travis Scott show is people would say, oh my gosh, we survived Astroworld, we survived the Travis Scott show. Like that was a thing kids were saying publicly. And I think people just took it for granted about how raucous these crowds can get, especially Avery, you mentioned it, like how it's been 2 years since this show has happened and it's Travis Scott, and you know how crazy the crowds can get. So I think it's just like underestimating the power of like what could have happened, because they're like, oh, I mean, yeah, they're warning them about the dangers, but they probably didn't take action because they were like, nobody's gonna get hurt, it's fine, it's gonna get crazy, people are gonna get kicked out, it's gonna be raucous, everything, but nobody's gonna die, like, you know what I'm saying? So like I think it's just overall like just negligence of thinking like what could happen, or almost arrogance, like nothing's gonna happen, we'll be fine, right, on both sides. Because Travis Scott's side is probably thinking like, yeah, exactly. Because Travis Scott's side is probably thinking nothing's gonna happen at this show. We have shows like this all the time. So
yeah,
I think a really interesting reporting that came from the Houston Chronicle, who basically listened to police audio. So like the police call, a scanner stuff, and they try to piece together a timeline. The police chief hasn't given any timeline information. He's been very, very like mum on that. That's part of the investigation. We have to wait. And this article sort of helps you realize why he may, not want to get to that too quickly. Because according to this, there's something to suggest that they knew there was an issue at early as 9/11. The timeline we do know, right? Travis Scott's on stage at the 9 p.m. hour. The concert scheduled to end at 11. It ends at 10:10, I want to say, around 10:10. The reasoning being, the Finner has said, oh, well, it still ended early, but, and it ended at 10:10. You look at this, you hear that there was alert of someone being seriously sick, or at least someone saying the main stage has been compromised as early as 9/11. So 9/11, they knew Okay, so something's happening here. They also know that some audience members are trying to escape that area as early as 11, right?
Mhm.
You then go on and you real think they said we realized that there was someone who needed CPR at around like 9:16 because there was a breathing problem that was reported. And someone else, they'd warned of assaults going on outside the stadium, more people trying to break in and get in. So police were hearing of these things. 9:21, an official said they found out folks are coming out of the crowd complaining of difficulty breathing, crushing type injuries as early as 9:21 p.m. So all these are important numbers, right? They're telling you that okay, there was warnings that something was going on before any action was taken. Scott was expected to wrap up at 10 p.m. I was referring to the Eastern time. So in Texas, where this was around 10 p.m., the show continued though. Show continued despite reports of, hey, the medical tent's getting crazy. People are trampled. There are people that are passed out on the front stage. The command post said that things had become dire at 9:38 p.m. The concert was still going on. Things were happening. No one was shutting anything down. It wasn't until 10 p.m. that authorities gave word that the concert was in the process of shutting down. 10 p.m. They got that first message at 9:21. Nothing about a shutdown until 10 p.m. 10 p.m. And I believe then it ultimately ended at around 10:10-ish. So, you know, what do y'all just make when you piece that together in your brain, like that sort of timeline, and then sort of where the police is on this? Do you get anything? Does that raise any questions in your journalist brains?
I mean, it's just like, why did it take so long, man? Like, you know, if there's like, I don't even know, even like half the amount of people that were like trying to escape or get out, like, you know, your priority in that situation should be like protecting the people that are attending, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Okay.
especially in like, again, like if you're gonna bring up the fact that there's like tension surrounding like coronavirus and stuff like that, then like if safety like that is on your mind, then like your attention should be on making sure people
Well,
are safe.
Well, Avery, you could speak better to this because you're from Texas, but is coronavirus safety a factor in their
No, that, like
planning?
that's, but I just mean in terms of like if the police chief is going to come out 3 days later and cite coronavirus as a concern and
Mhm.
safety as a concern, it's like it clearly was not a priority
It definitely
the day
wasn't.
of the festival, and for them to like come out and say that 3 days later is kind of insane.
I mean, this is just a reflection of like the response that police has over the country to certain things. Like if things aren't a priority, they're not going to do it. Like clearly,
Right.
the priority of these kids or these concert goers was not a priority, and it's reflected in their response. Like if it was a priority, they would have police around the area, because you know police around there, like around the I'm trying to think of the word, around the area essentially, like that are ready to provide backup or provide help if it's needed. And clearly they weren't. There wasn't.
Mhm.
They had a certain amount, and they were like, these are enough. And it just clearly wasn't a priority enough for them to have enough police there and bodies there to help. So I mean, that's all
Yeah.
it just reflects to me, because that if the police will prioritize what they want to prioritize, like they'll have bodies for things, whether it's protests or something like that, they'll have the people there. This was not one of those things, unfortunately.
There's just going to be a lot of questions about why this was declared a mass casualty event at 9:30, but the show went on until 10:10.
Yeah.
There's going to be questions about that. Any investigation that happens is going to have to look into that, because at the end of the day, we don't know how many lives, how many lives could have been saved, injuries prevented within that 40-minute gap. So sort of with that in mind, there have been calls for Houston police, as they're investigating all of this, right?
Mhm.
Considering they're one of the players here, there have been calls for outside investigations to get someone else to do the probe. Police right now has said no. Like the police chief has sort of been on, against that. He says he's confident that his team can do it. I'm sort of like, of course you're confident your team can do it. But we'll see where this goes. All I know is I think some scrutiny has to go to the police department as well, because again, there was a 40-minute gap and people died. So
I mean, I think there should be independent probe personally,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
because everybody, I mean, you would like to believe that the police are doing their best to find where things went wrong, but clearly there's already been signs of deflection in their
Literally,
part.
yeah. Like,
And I think an independent investigation shouldn't be out of the question at all. So
Mhm.
I mean, because everybody played it. I think independent investigation shouldn't be out of the question at all. So.
All right. So I think one thing that the police department has been big on, at least the first sort of people they've pointed blame at, feels like it's festival organizers. That first link tells you that this is something that the police chief said at a conference. I kind of referenced it earlier, but basically police saying, look, we had 530 police officers within in the perimeter. They may not have been in the building, but they were around. My question is, those 500 can prevent 9 people from dying, but whatever. They say they had their officers. The people who were in charge of of staffing the actual mosh pit, where a lot of this happened, where that crowd surge really made a difference, was Live Nation. They're supposed to have enough private security. So I'm not pointing fingers, but that's where you should be looking. This is from the police chief, of course. That does raise questions, right? I sort of had a lot of heat for festival organizers just because, to Noah's earlier point, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that a Travis Scott show can get rowdy and crazy. That's not, if you know Travis Scott, if you know his allure, you know that that's a big reason people will go to his show, because they want to rage, which is literally his tagline, almost like rage this, rage that. I detailed this in the newsletter. You can find it anywhere. There's been previous arrests for inciting a riot, disorderly conduct. There have been many of injuries that have happened at his shows before. The day of or the night before, encouraging people to get in if you can, even if you have a ticket, try and get in. Oh, nuts. And of course, that's why you had the police chief saying we warned him, because didn't he scrub all those tweets and everything he posts? I haven't checked that, but that's what people were saying. I haven't looked at that though. Yeah. Wow. But it is it's something. But I mean, I do think the festival has the organizers, which are mainly Scoremore, who I believe were the production team, and then Live Nation, who handled, I think, promotion on the national level. They definitely get some scrutiny for this, because if they were in charge of staffing those grounds, I'm interested when we have our interview later to just ask, did you feel that staffing? Did you feel like there was enough people there that you could tell someone you needed help? Right. Yeah. Because we've seen where to go. Yeah. Because we've seen this through all the videos that have come out, especially on TikTok, that there were so many attempts of people to wave down a cameraman or wave down a security guard or get help. And it apparently, at least I don't know for sure, I wasn't there, but the apparent view is that they were kind of ignored or just treated like, okay, this isn't a priority, or what are we going to do? It just feels like, because the video that come out of the ambulance coming through the crowd, and then Travis Scott being like, oh, is everything good? Everything good? And then just kind of going on with the show. Yeah. I wonder, why wasn't there a plan of well, this area is blocked off for ambulance, firefighters, for people to come through in case of emergency? Why wasn't that a priority in terms of, that's something that's on the planning side, where when you're picking out a venue, and you're trying to figure out how many people are going to come in, where can emergency help come in, where can emergency ambulance, police, firefighters, and clearly that wasn't prioritized, because the ambulance had to go through the crowd, literally that video. I know you guys have seen it, go through the crowd and try to get to help. And exactly. And the worst thing about that video, no, to your point, and we'll get to Travis's issue later, but that ambulance came in, and I didn't see that ambulance completely exit before that show resumed. Mm-hmm. That ambulance was still in the crowd when that show resumed. People were jumping TikToks on top of stuff. Yes, there are TikToks of people dancing on top of this ambulance, clearly there to help someone during the show. And that is why Travis Scott gets scrutiny too, because I get that you may not have seen everything from your angle, but you saw that ambulance, you saw those lights, and you decided to keep on going. Mm-hmm. According to police and sort of the information that's come out, the only 2 people that had the authority to shut down the show were apparently the festival director and the head of security, neither of which made that call. But apparently we do know that Astroworld organizers didn't have a plan to actually deal with what they dealt with. They had a guide, they had an emergency plan that dealt with, bomb threats, tornadoes, a shooting, all that stuff. There was nothing about a crowd surge, which is so just sort of, it feels like a huge oversight, right? Considering this, how many people were there? Afterworld, there was people who were running through security barriers to get in. That should have been an easy thing to foresee. Yeah, this is just the amount of people that were there, and you don't expect and Travis Scott's whole culture, you don't expect people to go a little crazy. You're in Houston. This is someone who has literally gone, you're repping an artist who's gone to jail for telling people to storm past security and get on stage. That was a charge he had to eat. at Lollapalooza, another big festival. This is 2 years. The only way I'll say the pandemic easily plays into this is you have fans who may have been cooped up for years waiting for this. They haven't had an Astrofest since 2019. Yeah. So you have people who are waiting a long time for this, maybe just super excited to finally come back. There needed to be some degree of proactivity to the reality of the situation on hand. It's Travis Scott, a man known for raging, first show back in a pandemic, and people stormed security the last time you did it. There were injuries the last time you did this festival.
Yeah, and Nnamdi, and it's crazy because we went to a show a couple months ago. Obviously, Isaiah Rashad is not on the same level as Travis Scott, but we could feel in that crowd like you're not able to move. Like you were, Nnamdi is a tall guy. Nnamdi's 6'4", I'm 6'2". You're being moved in the crowd. You're being pushed. There's literally nothing you can do. And imagine that times what, 10? I mean, how many people were at this? You said how many people? I don't have the exact number. Somebody said 50,000.
There were 50,000 tickets.
50,000. Exactly. So imagine 50,000 at this Isaiah Rashad show, maybe 2,000 people, like a really small scale version of that. And you're being moved. People are falling, obviously. And it's very difficult for, and obviously on Travis Scott's part, like, man, I don't know, man. Obviously he has some culpability, clearly. But, man, there's time at a certain level where you got it. And obviously the videos have been coming from all kinds of artists like SZA about SZA trying to calm down her fans, Linkin Park. I mean, there's been all kinds of videos that have been circulating. I'm sure you guys have seen it from all kinds of artists trying to encourage artists encouraging, people in the crowd like, hey, what's going on? He needs to go. Or hey, somebody help this person. So I don't know. Clearly,
yeah, we'll definitely get to artist responsibility.
I want
to. There's a lot that has to be on him.
I want to say that I've seen a video where Travis Scott has stopped a show because someone was getting into a fight in his crowd in front of him.
Are you sure you've seen that video?
I promise. This was a while ago. But he stopped a show and let the fan come on stage and sing a song with him. The guy who was getting beat up. But he stopped the show because people were getting in a fight. I've seen that before.
I mean,
I'd hope. Look, I think the general hope is that whenever you have a concert, the artist will care about his fans enough to do it. I brought up the whole who can shut down the show thing earlier because I've seen a lot of people defend Travis Scott by saying it shouldn't be the performer's job to ensure everyone is safe. Their job is to focus on the performing. That's why even though Travis Scott, but there's been hundreds of lawsuits filed since this. I think that's one of these links. Ben Crump, famous civil rights attorney, has filed nearly 100 on his own. So there is going to be a ton of litigation. And I've seen a lot of people say, well, look, Travis Scott, it's going to be hard for him to be held criminally liable because his job's to perform. But the general hope is just that as an artist, you'll care a little bit more. When you see that ambulance and what your shows can be like, how crazy it can get, that you'll stop, you'll pause, you'll say, yo, we going to chill till the ambulance gets in and out, and is everything okay? I don't know what Travis Scott could hear and see, right? But you have the videos of him appearing to see unconscious fans, or just that something was happening.
He did
appearing to see, the ambulance, I don't know.
He did briefly stop the show a couple times.
4 times.
But he didn't. But I guess he didn't go as far as I guess he maybe should have. And I know we're talking about the festival.
And I think even when he briefly stopped the show, I didn't see any video where it was I'm briefly stopping. Yo, what's going on? Are y'all good? Y'all get out there. Do we need to stop? Do we need why is the ambulance here? Hold on, let's all chill. Everyone chill for a second. Y'all. There
are more context clues that should have been taken there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you guys because an artist, because Nnamdi mentioned is the safety of the fans, is that on the artist? I mean, it's not hypothetically you would think no, because they're not security. But I mean the fans, they're gonna listen to the artist. There's no music, obviously when there's music being played, there's a show going on, Travis Scott is jumping. Fans are not gonna really care what's going around, they're just gonna jump, go crazy. When there's no music going on, people aren't gonna dance, not gonna start raging to nothing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So in that sense, Travis Scott does have some culpability and artists do have power in that sense, because I mean for the most part, people, the fans are going to listen to basically nobody except what the artists that they're there to see, essentially. I mean,
and that's part of the reason the Houston fire chief, Avery, in that link actually said he thinks that first one under the Travis section, he kind of made that point. He says, at one point there was an ambulance that was trying to make its way through the crowd, and this artist has command of that crowd. The artist, if he notices something that's going on, he can certainly pause the performance, turn on the light to say, hey, we're not going to continue until this thing is resolved. That was from the fire chief. And that is what my point has generally been with Travis Scott. Yes, his job isn't to ensure things are safe, but you as an artist, as a human being with free will, can make the decision to stop things, knowing that you're commanding this crowd. They're here to see you, not your festival director. You can say, yo, we're all going to stop until we figure things out. There's too many people in here. You know, we're all going to chill for a little bit. Or, hey, everyone has to cool down, or we got to end the show. You can do that from your platform. And that wasn't done.
Or could talk to people like, yo, what's going on? And then, hey, could somebody find out what's going on there? Get it back to Travis Scott. It's like, yo, I found out what's happening. Let's make sure these people get out safely, and then we'll continue the show. Let's help this guy out. Let's help this ambulance out. You know, there's steps he can take, or somebody, or even if Travis Scott, somebody can come, because, you know, people are always coming on the stage, Travis Scott Water, whatever. They could come, hey, yo, Travis Scott, man, this is going on. People are saying this. I'm hearing this from people. We should stop, figure this out. What's going on? That's also around Travis Scott's team also, to be able to be like, yo, Travis, something's really going on now down there. People are being told that, you know, people are hurt, people are, you know, passing out. Let's stop this a little bit. I think you should stop this. Like, it's not just Travis Scott, like, because obviously Travis Scott's out there, he's on the show, you know, just looking out in the crowd, but there's people around him who should be aware of those things, I would think, and that could notify Travis Scott what's going on. So
my thing is just, the show could have ended. They could have ended the show. You know, the police chief has said they decided against ending the show abruptly because they were afraid of rioting. And you know, you have a group that's young and rowdy, but I just don't buy it. I don't buy that if you turn on the lights, they may chant, but they'll go home eventually, especially if it's, hey, people have died, so we need to end the show. You knew it was a mass casualty event at 9:30, you know? I've seen a lot of people, the statement from Travis and like his team, he didn't know the severity of what was happening. Severity. And I always point out the word there that you need to pay attention to is severity. He didn't know, not that he didn't know something was happening. He didn't know the severity of the situation. So maybe he knew people were getting hurt.
Which I can see, but like
I can see
the
that
fact
too.
that we like, you know, it shouldn't have to get so bad to where like there shouldn't be a level to like, if it gets to this point, he should stop it, right? Like you know, he shouldn't have to know how severe the situation is for wanting people to be safe.
Well, the thing is, part of me feels like his response reflective of what's happened. I'm pretty sure at a show, there's been ambulances that have come through when the shows kept going and there was nothing happened. I'm pretty sure that's what happened, which is why.
And that's reckless when they do it too. But we've also seen shows where the artist has seen something happen and they stop at festivals. Absolutely. So to me, it's like, you see the ambulance and you assume, okay, it's a Travis Scott show. Yes, somebody was bound to get hurt. But guess what? That's a fault that you now have to bear. That willful ignorance, that complicity, that saying, hey, we can lose a couple of injuries, it's fine. Maybe you didn't know there was death, but you, at a certain level, there was a decision made that a few are hurt, it's fine. So now as a result, I'll end with this ahead of our interview. There's literally hundreds of lawsuits against Travis Scott. The first one, I believe, is becoming sort of class action-ish, and that actually names festival organizers, Travis Scott, even Drake, because he was performing out at one time and they're saying, hey, he could have stopped it too. That's not gonna, legally, I don't think that has much weight, but hundreds of lawsuits. Ben Crump, like I mentioned, he's filing on behalf of 100 people on their own, because the thing is, it's not just people who died or injured. If I'm there and I was sitting next to someone who's dead, I'm traumatized, you know? So that has to come. I think he's gonna be wrapped up in litigation for a while. I guess maybe we can end on this. What do y'all think is the next really route for Travis Scott? He's saying, I think he's offered to kind of cover funeral expenses, but I'm not gonna lie, part of me felt like, does he need that headline? Because the headline at that time, not cynically, but just because we later learned that after the show, he went to Dave & Buster's for Drake's after party. Like, because there is the way to view it as you didn't take this seriously, even in the face of those injuries. At a certain level, you knew your show had to shut down early because it was declared a mass casualty event. And if you didn't know that by 9:30, that's the fault of someone on your team. But you went to Dave & Buster's. So what's next for him? What do you guys think?
Well, I'm not going to say, because obviously all this is for like how it looks, but obviously him paying for the funeral expenses for the people who did die, that's a good thing. I'm not gonna, obviously it's for show, but that's a good thing. I think he has to, I mean, obviously the only thing we've seen him say is like, you know, sorry, you know, people are memeing and stuff like that, which, you know, mixed feelings about that. But, you know, people are talking about that apology. I think he has to come out with the actual statement, kind of give an overall view of the failures that him and his team had, honestly, and kind of take some culpability, because I feel like he hasn't lately. People are saying people are saying that, people are writing that, but he has to come out and actually say that. And I think that can begin the process to heal for everybody involved. Because if Travis Scott comes on and says like, I should have done more, my team could have done more, we'll take more steps in the future to ensure the safety of my fans because I love my fans, they're the ones who got me here. I think that will go a long way in terms of everybody starting to take responsibility, because if nobody's going to take responsibility, the police is going to point to Travis
No one
Scott.
has yet. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So nobody's taking culpability like, yo, I messed up here. If Travis Scott comes out and says that and people on his team say that, I think that can go a long way.
Now, honestly, considering there's like 200 lawsuits, I don't feel like that may happen.
Yeah, it might not happen.
A legal thing, you know.
I feel like he should be. He shouldn't just be covering funeral expenses. He should be covering hospital expenses for everyone who is in the hospital. Like, he's gonna be trying to stack up a lot of goodwill in the next few months, and I hate to bring it to music, but he's probably not going to be releasing anything anytime soon. So,
oh, definitely, yeah. This is going to require him, I think, to really sort of change his entire brand a little bit, because it can no longer be rage. It's just going to be associated with dying now. So we're going to have to figure out another way to do a live show, because we just haven't seen something like this in a long time. Even when you think of other times at concerts where there have been death, it's typically been because of sorry, I don't want to bring up Ariana Grande, but like a shooter or just something. Mm-hmm. This was culpability on so many different levels. And there's just gonna have to be some accountability for that. So I think in a couple minutes we're talking to two of Avery's. I know two people from Houston, or that were in Houston. I don't know if they're from Houston, but they were in Houston at the time of the Astroworld Festival. They're going to be joining us and just giving us that first person account.
They were at the festival too. Yeah, they were at the festival.
Yeah. So, we're going to be talking to them in a second. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so we are back now with, as we were mentioning, two people who were actually at the Astroworld Festival and sort of have a firsthand account to sort of everything that happened Friday night. So thank you all for joining us. Would you mind introducing yourselves? And we'll just go from there.
My name is Safi Khan. This is my wife,
Aliza Khan.
And we were there at Astro, and it was quite crazy. And we're here to talk about our experience and what we encountered over there.
Perfect. So I think the first thing I kind of want to ask you.
Yeah, my bad.
No, you're good. You're good. I think the first thing I want to ask you two to do, and we kind of were doing it before we started recording, but to sort of just lay out what day one looked like for you all. So maybe even before Travis came out, but just sort of how it sort of led up to that super, super packed crowd. Like, so when did you guys get there, and at what moment did it start feeling like, oh, we can't breathe?
Yeah, so we got there like 4 p.m. and 4:30, Don Tolliver was about to perform. And at around 12 to 2 p.m. is when the gates started opening. And if you go on Twitter, you could, see the video, but people are rushing the gates like hella, like everyone's just rushing the gates. People are jumping on top of each other's head, hands, feet, back, like everyone's just, pretty much jumping on top of each other, hurting each other. You see security guards trying to contain it. They're not really doing anything. Security guards are standing in the back like this. There was actually one security guard that through that whole stampede, this security guard took this one kid, pushed him to the ground, and it was just a very chaotic mess. So we weren't a part of that. That happened, a couple of hours before we got there. When we got there, though, it seemed like a normal festival. Like everything was good. I didn't know about anything that happened previous.
I will say for us, though, getting in was fairly odd to begin with. So they give you like the wristbands, right? And they have like the plastic part, which is scannable. And when we were walking in, there was just security, and it wasn't police officers or anything. It's third-party security. And instead of having us scan our wristbands,
police officers were outside of the festival. So I'm going to come back to that point.
Instead of having us scan our wristbands, they were simply just saying at different points, like, hold your wrists up. And that was how we got in.
Yeah.
It comes back to another part, which I'm sure you guys know, like during these festivals, there's always people during any concert that are outside, like, oh, you need wristbands, right? Mm-hmm. They're not all legit, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, you could have been wearing any red band around your wrist and you probably would have gotten through, because there's no way they can scan I would say when we were walking in, there was a good like 7,500 just walking in. I mean, it wasn't chaotic for us to walk in, but there was, I mean, obviously there's a few people always coming in at the same time. And that was how we got in.
Yeah, like, so I went to Miami, Rolling Loud Miami, and that was the first festival that had happened or concert in, in a while. So when we went there, first of all, the people over there in that crowd were a lot nicer than the crowd in Houston. And like, for example, when someone would start to faint or pass out, like at concerts, you usually realize, okay, people are they're bound to faint, they're bound to pass out, but it's not as worrisome because they're with their friends, you'll get them water. Like, this usually happens at concerts. So no one knew the magnitude of what was about to happen in Astroworld. But the point is, at Miami, like when someone would start to pass out, they'd be like, hey, let this person through, like, be nice, like, come on, let's open this up. And we would actually let people through and it'd be good. In Astro, that wasn't the case. Every time someone needed to get out of the crowd, or anytime someone needed to, get out because they're passing out or whatever, everyone would just be straight up disrespectful. Like, no, you're not getting out. Oh, y'all
why'd you come in the first
here?
place?
You're not supposed to come in here. Then handle it. Like, they were being, they were being, straight up, they were being dicks, right? So that was the case in Miami. And in Miami too, we scanned our wristbands when we walked in, because there was scanners at Astroworld. There were scanners, but
and they were doing it
no
in the
one
beginning.
used the scanners. They started doing it, but then the more and more people started coming, they just started getting bombarded. So
you can kind of point to that as like failure number one almost, because of course we don't know how much that contributed, but like, you don't know how many people came in without authentic wristbands or just ran past security.
You didn't have to wear a wristband. You could just like run in at that point. Like, it didn't matter. So the capacity that everyone was told was 50,000, but there could have been more than 50,000, maybe close to 70,000. So but I mean, everything else, like when we were at the festival before Don Tall's performance, it was nice and chill. There wasn't really much going on. And then his performance was good. We stayed for Roddy's performance. That was great. Everything seemed good up until, Travis's set. And that's where, people started coming there super early to get good spots. And then
around what time was that?
That was probably like 6:30, 7 o'clock.
A lot of people did after Don Tolliver, because he was at 4:30, and then there was Roddy Rich, who was at 4:30, I think 5, because Don Tolliver ended at 5. So I think Roddy Rich started at 5:15. I would say after Roddy is when a lot of people started making their way to Travis's set, which I would say is what saved us, honestly. Why we weren't a part of that whole stampede and why we were able to be in a safe area and come out of that safely was we decided, we were really in between, because we were like, oh, we really want to see SZA, and we came to the conclusion, we're like, let's just go to Travis and skip what did we skip?
After Roddy was Lil Baby.
Yeah, we skipped Lil Baby and SZA.
Yeah, so we saw Lil Baby from the back, and then
we just made our way to Travis's stage, where there was quite a crowd that was moving that way, but we're still able to handle it.
Yeah.
And instead of going towards the middle, we just kind of cut through the side and went to the left side of the stage if you're facing the stage. And I would say if we had stayed probably past Lil Baby and into SZA, we probably would have been in that stampede of people.
Yeah, because
there was just so many people trying to make their way at the same time.
The location of the two stages were very, I wouldn't say they were close, but in some festivals usually you have stages that are more widespread. So like in Miami there was 4 stages, but they were pretty well spread out. Even if you just took the other 2 stages away, from one stage to the second stage was still quite a distance away, which is a good thing. That causes less traffic. So because these 2 stages were like pretty close to one another, you had, ongoing traffic of crowds of people moving, in different directions. And it caused this huge surge of basically people packed like sardines. And especially when SZA ended, then obviously all of those people just big shift to the other stadium, which caused people to fall over and stuff like that. So, Miami wasn't like that at all. And maybe it was because there wasn't as many people. I thought there was a lot of people at Miami. But then again, the whole Hard Rock Stadium, that whole space was a little bit more bigger because you had to accommodate 4 stages. I think the Astroworld Festival grounds should have been bigger. Not by a lot, but by a little bit. I think the stages should have been spread out a little bit more. But ultimately, I think it came down to 3 problems. And I told this to everyone else who asked us. The 3 problems why this concert, went down the hole was understaffing. There's not enough security there, not enough ambulance, not enough medics over there. Human stupidity. And by that, I mean humans literally acting like animals, jumping on top of each other, disrespecting each other, hurting each other, calling each other names, all this and that. And the third is hard drugs, because there was a lot of laced drugs there too, laced Molly, laced ecstasy, laced heroin.
We saw a guy and he was just off.
Yeah, we got this guy sitting against the porta potty. He's like
porta potty and
losing his shit, like he's some other dimension. He looked like he was about to pass out. So, I mean, this
like,
is like
his eyes were like to the back of his head.
Yeah, like
he was like barely standing up, and he was like this, and he's just like
crazy,
swaying back and forth. And I was like, this man is like off some shit.
Yeah, so
like
it was later found out that there was drugs being sold over there, hard drugs being sold over there. And there was a guy in the crowd that we found out later that had a needle with him. And we don't know that if it was voluntary or involuntary, if he was injecting people. All we know is that he had a needle in his hand and some people were getting injected by that needle. Obviously my guess is probably there's heroin in there or something like that. What's crazy though, that confirmed that there was drugs there, is there was 2 people in our hotel building, I should say, that came up the elevator with us. And these guys, these guys looked very distressed, and like they had, like PTSD or something. You could tell that the way they talked and the way they were trembling in their voice and the way they, were shaken up, that they were explaining that this guy in front of us was literally dying in front of us. He was turning purple in the face, foam coming out of his mouth. And when he said the foam part, I'm like, okay, that has to do with drugs. I mean, that has to be an overdose. Like there can't be any other explanation for that. And also what I found funny as a side note, or not funny, but you know what I mean. But as like a side note, people were getting cardiac arrest. Like that doesn't usually happen at Caesar. Like cardiac arrest is very unique to happen at a concert, to say the least. Anyways, they were explaining that this guy, happened in front of them, and he felt, conflicted. He's like, bro, like there was no one there to help him, and like other ambulances were there to help other people, but he was in front of me, and Drake had just come out, so I don't know if I should be excited to see Drake or if I should, help this guy. Like it was just a very
first of all, I was
destructive, chaotic situation.
Is that a question? But
yeah, is that a question?
I mean, and ideally, it's not a question. But you guys have sort of talked about how the crowd here was. There's not necessarily people who they're focused on seeing Travis and Drake, and they don't care who or what is happening by them.
I experienced someone say something to me, because we were like, when we were waiting for Travis, I would say that was honestly, I'm someone who has like anxiety, especially with like lots of people. And I was keeping my stuff together, because if I thought about what was happening around me, I would have lost it, and I probably would have had a panic attack.
Can you talk a bit more about what was happening around you? Like, I know you said packed like a sardine, but could you sort of paint a picture of like what that means and like how you guys were in that moment?
He was behind me, so he was just holding me like this the entire time.
I had a death grip on her the whole time.
Yeah,
like, I did not let go.
From the back.
Her and my brother were.
And so it was both of us, and then his younger brother and his cousin. So it was 4 of us, and they had buddied up and we were buddied up. So we pretty much were together the whole time. But he was behind me, and then there was someone in front of me, someone literally on every side of you and in like close proximity. Like I could feel the person in front of me, their sweat was on my arms. Like it was very tight.
So no control of your own body. Like if they're moving, you're moving.
Yeah, 100%. And that is the part that I think got really bad, is because we were so close. And when those shockwaves occurred, you had no choice but to go with the crowd. Like you could not stand on your 2 feet and choose to not move. So there was a lot of times where I was just on 1 foot and I thought I was about to fall. and that someone was going to fall on top of me, and it was just about to be a whole thing. But we really just tried to stay as stiff as we could to not fall over, and everyone was trying really hard not to fall on top of each other. But there was no personal space. It was so close that you could feel people's like body heat on you. And because I'm like shorter, I wouldn't say
it was 50
short.
degrees the whole time at this place.
Thankfully, I'm not very short, but being shorter than obviously some of the guys that were there, you couldn't breathe fresh air. Like it was hot, sweaty air you were breathing because of everyone around you. So I just kept looking up and trying to get as much fresh air as I could. And so with that, it was just
the only way to breathe fresh air was to literally
look up,
do this the whole time.
Wow.
Like that was.
And if you wanted to leave, you couldn't.
So there was a point where his brother and I, while we were waiting for Travis, like we've been in mosh pits, like we're used to it, like we can handle it. But even his brother, like he's a rager, like he will go off. But he was like, I don't know if I can do this, while we were waiting for Travis. And so it was like, should we fall back? Like, what do we do? And I was like, there's no way we can get out of this. Getting out of this is going to feel worse than just standing here at this point.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask, like, was there like any staff available? Like, could you see anybody that worked in the thing? Like, hey, I need help getting out. Because usually when you're, you guys have been to plenty of shows, obviously, like usually when you're a show, you could see some kind of staff, whether in the middle, in front, the sides, like staff around. There was none.
The only staff that we saw were, I guess, just festival staff. I don't know what to specifically call them, but these were the people that were outside of the gate, and
clearly no security.
But yeah, basically there was next to none security.
The security,
and if there was, they were just standing there not doing anything.
They were behind the barricade.
Yeah.
Like to the stage, right? So people don't get on the stage. It was more security for the artists, and I would say the
that makes sense. But there was a lot of people that were fainting in the crowd where we had people passing out, and in order to get them out, the only way, because obviously no one could push through, is we would start lifting these people up and crowd surf them over the fence to get times, for the people on the other side of the fence to take them out. This happened with 10 or 12 people in our area alone. We're pushing these people up, crowd surfing them.
And at first I was like, how do people have room to do this? Like, why are they doing this for fun? And
we thought it was for fun.
I thought it was for fun. And then I realized like these people could not get out. So they had to be crowd surfed to the front to get out.
Now, what's crazy to me is in Miami, this is just my personal opinion. I thought that Uzi's crowd in Miami was 2 to 3 times more worse than Travis's crowd here. And it's ironic because nothing bad happened at Rolling Loud. And in Uzi's crowd, it was the same kind of effect. I just think it was capitalized a lot more. You had people, moving around like this. I almost fell back a few times, like legitimately almost fell back a few times. And at that moment too, my ankle was sprained as well. So my ankle was already screwed up as well. And so because that whole time at Miami, we were pretty much at the fence in Miami the whole time. We had the super big guy with us, and he was just bulldozing like to get to the front. But again, people were nice about it in Miami. No one was like selfish about it or anything. They would, be nice to you. And so we were like that the whole time. But even that, we were like, okay, man, we have to tap out of Uzi because this is getting like too much. And I thought this was like really bad. So the fact that at Astro this happened, I think it was just the understaffing did not contribute, into helping anyone. Like obviously there was not that many paramedics there. There was, when I go back to human stupidity, that when the paramedic entered the crowd, because there was a moment where the paramedic entered the crowd.
Yeah. Is that the ambulance is going through? Yeah. Okay.
This one guy jumped on top of the roof and started dancing on top of the roof. But
let me ask you, did Travis stop performing? Because there's a clip that went kind of viral of him sort of seeing there's an ambulance and sort of kind of pausing for a sec.
So he stopped 4 times, his show 4 times to make sure people were okay, to make sure, everyone, was okay and stuff like that. And he did continue. I personally believe that Travis is not to blame for what happened. And there was also news that came out that there was only two people that were legally obligated to stop the show. Travis was not one of those people. It was the festival director and the Live Nation management, one of those two. but only those two people were allowed to actually say, okay, here, show is stopping. Travis was not on that list of people to stop the show, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but I think, you know,
although he could have, I mean, legally, I don't think he was able to.
Yeah, and going off that, I want to ask you, you said he paused 4 times.
Yeah.
What was he saying? How long were these pauses? Was it waiting for, you know, I know for me, I saw the ambulance clip and it seems like he resumed the show before the ambulance completely left, right?
So that was my thing. I was like, I get it that people pass out at your show and you're used to it and that's normal. I get it. But how many times has a whole ambulance been in your audience? Like to the point where an ambulance had to split the way for them to get through, right? Like that was already tough in itself. I can imagine we couldn't move.
It wasn't an actual ambulance truck though.
It was like a golf.
It was like a golf ambulance truck, so it was smaller. Like, but yeah,
there was lights
that
on
doesn't
it.
negate what.
And I just think if he saw that and he acknowledged it, but he didn't say anything towards the effect of like, make some room, like, is everything okay? Let's just take a breather, like everyone give some space to each other.
The max
there was none of
time
that.
He stopped was probably 7 minutes, I would say.
It wasn't even 7 minutes.
And was he saying anything during that break, or was it just
he was humming during it?
He was just like he was seeing what's going on. He, you know, in order to other people that weren't a part of that, obviously he still needed to get those people engaged into the show still. So he was still saying like a few lyrics on and off, but his attention was still focused on down there.
I don't know. He didn't say anything like towards it. He just said, "Oh, there's an ambulance," or "Someone needs help," you know, and he just stopped. And he was like, "Oh, like something, there's an ambulance," and then he was like, "Let's wait a minute." Then he's just humming during that, and then he continues with the show.
Yeah, and then
I think that was just a little bit of negligence, and you know, it just didn't make sense to me as to there's a whole ambulance in your crowd, and I wouldn't even say it was like 5 minutes. I would say it was like 3 to 4 minutes. He stopped.
Yeah.
And he was humming during it and then just continued. He was like, "All right, let's get this show like back on the road," or like whatever.
That was the 4th time I believe he stopped. And the other 3 times previous, he just said, "All right, get these people out." Because, you know, I believe that in his mind, when he's witnessing all this, he's probably thinking to himself, okay, this has happened at my shows before. You know, people pass out, you know, this is normal. Like, we can treat these people. I don't think Travis knew at the time that there was an understaffing of security and medics. I don't think he knew that. And I also don't think he knew that people started to literally die. And you also see that the show did end early. Drake went in back early and the show ended like 17 minutes earlier than it should have.
But mind you, that was not because he knew.
Yeah, so we don't know if he knew at that point or not.
Oh, wow.
But you know, there was also points where, you know, you had the cameramen that are standing on the outskirts of the stadium trying to live stream it. And there was a girl video scene where a girl was going up to the cameraman saying, "Hey, you need to stop. People are literally dying." And the cameraman doesn't do anything. And then she finds a video on TikTok later saying like, "Hey, like I'm a girl that works for those type of events." And on that, where that cameraman is, like they have these headphones. And in those headphones, they all communicate with each other at the whole festival, right? Like, hey, like this and that, like. So there's this open communication, and if this man had simply said, "Hey, people are dying," in his headset, you know, then, you know, maybe something could have been prevented, you know. So
Sophie, I want to ask you, we read some reporting that said at like what both of you, of course, that said at 9:30, that's around then they were notified that this is a mass casualty event, so people have died. The show, they said, ended around 10:10. So as someone who's there, how much of a difference would it have been? They said, you know, we couldn't end the show early because we were afraid that the crowd would get upset and riot. So fair, whatever. But how much of a difference do you think it would have been if at 9:30, whatever was happening then, they're like, "Oh, we need to end this. We just got word that someone died."
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't have been upset. I mean, if someone died, then, you know, one death is enough for me to say, okay, the show's not that important. You know, someone died. I've seen Travis before. She's seen him like, multiple times before too. Like, it's not anything crazy. I was like, okay, we saw him. Saw Drake for the first time. That was cool. But like, none of that matters. When someone dies, I feel like we should look at that as like okay, you threw an event and this person died at your event. Like, there needs to be there should have been a stoppage over there. I believe there should have been a stoppage. There wasn't. And the fact that more people kept on dying after that, like me and her, when we were leaving the festival grounds, we saw 8 people carrying a body. And I was like,
I personally didn't see his face. I just saw
we
there
didn't see
was
his
4
face.
people on one side of him,
Yeah.
and there was 4 people on the other, one at his head and one at his feet, and 2 security guards trying to exit him out, making way. I didn't see his face. Him and his brother kind of saw him a little bit.
It was a bigger guy. But what I thought in that moment, I was like,
no, he's passed out,
is the guy passed out or is he dead? Like, we don't know. But what I do know is the amount of humans it takes to pick up a body is usually not that much if they're alive. But a dead body has a lot of dead weight to it, and it takes a lot more humans to carry a dead body. So at that moment, I was like, is it 8 people because he's dead and they just need more people to carry him, or is he like passed out or something, and maybe he is just a bigger guy and he needs more people? So I had all these questions going through my mind. I'm like, did I just witness this or that? And I was really trying to make sense of it in my head, trying to really understand what had happened. And then I also see police are outside the skirts of the stadium. I'm like, why are police outside the skirts of the stadium? They should be inside. They should be tackling the problems that are happening. And it was just untrained, unprofessional security guards on the inside, and the well-trained people are on the outside.
When we were walking into the festival, they had there was 3 or 4 horse trailers for police officers on horses.
Yeah.
And it was just odd that I never saw any of them inside festival grounds.
Wow. Yeah, none of them.
So you didn't see any police? No.
I personally didn't see.
Yeah, I didn't see
federal, I didn't see police officers. No.
Yeah.
I did see in videos afterwards that they were on the other side of the barricade, but they weren't securing the grounds, I would say. We saw them a lot when we were leaving, also directing traffic, but I personally did not see one officer myself on festival grounds, except for on videos when they were behind the barricades.
That's crazy, because the police chief says he's done a lot of press with this, and he's come out and said, "Oh, we had 530 police officers at Astroworld Festival."
That seems like a stretch. I personally did not see one.
Honestly, take that how you will. I don't think that that's true at all, because even if there were, I didn't see any of them inside.
Yeah.
You didn't feel it. You didn't feel like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of police officers. They weren't really present.
Yeah, exactly.
You would think if there's 500. We would have seen at least one, right?
Yeah.
We walked into the festival grounds, and everyone's getting in line for water, to fill up their water bags, and you see the cacti thing over here, and Don Tolliver's stage is over here, and I'm looking all around, and I'm just we just walked in, and I'm like, okay, this looks nice. Not once did I see a police officer in my sight or anything like that. I didn't see. I saw security standing, but they were just, like I said before, they were just standing there. Security really didn't do anything, and when they did do something, they physically hurt another human being because they were pushing down other people and stuff like that. But as far as police officers go, I didn't see any police officers inside.
You would think you would see police cars around, parked or something, just around, But
and if there were people inside, it was the horse police, not the car police, I guess you want to say, whatever.
I didn't even see a horse police officer at all.
Yeah, I'm not saying I saw it. I'm just saying if there was any police inside, then that's what it would have been. But
what was the end of the show like? Like when it ended, when he walked off the stage, what was that like?
So
it was fine.
It was fine.
It wasn't I thought it would be kind of chaotic. Everyone just kind of turned the other way and started walking in the same
away, direction. Yeah. So actually, it's crazy. Most of this stampede stuff that was. Could you guys hear that?
It's all good.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. So it was most of the chaotic and stampede stuff was going on before the performance. During the performance, actually, we were having a blast. We were having a great time. We had space to, jump around, dance in, and, go crazy and rage in. I guess like we had that space.
We did fall back though. Like
utilize.
when the concert started, we decided we wouldn't keep moving forward because that is kind of how you end up getting into stuff. You get pushed forward. So we were like, let's just stand back instead of moving forward because it's gonna get messy up there. So we were like, we're good. We're just gonna step back a bit.
There's a fence up there, anyways. Like
So we just we fell back. So we did have more space. But
we fell
it
back
was still
enough.
Pretty chaotic in the front.
So I'm
glad we weren't there.
Enough to still see the two artists, but not far enough to be completely disconnected from, I guess, like the pit. Even though we were in a pit, but it wasn't like, crazy or anything. Like I said, it was an enjoyable spot. Like we had fun in that spot. We were jumping, having fun in that spot, completely unaware of what was going on behind us, completely unaware of what's going on the other side of the stage. So to our knowledge, we were having a great time. The whole show was great. Songs were great. When the show was over, everyone, like she said, turned around pretty much synchronously and just started walking out. So out, leaving wasn't much of a chaos as it was coming in. And we didn't find out about any of this news until like an hour and a half later. We went back to our hotel. We took a shower. We got ready to go out, to downtown, just like see what's there to do. And then like her friends texting like, hey, 8 people died. And she's like, what the hell are you talking about? 8 people died. And that's where the whole night kind of just shifted in tone for the rest of the night. So
for us, it was just like, I personally felt, because I'm a big, I like helping people and I feel really bad when I can't. So finding that out, I felt just so bad that I had no idea that people were struggling this bad and we didn't even know to help them.
Yeah.
And just the fact that we were there having, we were having fun, we were being carefree, like we were being careful, but we were having relatively, a good time after the concert started.
Pretty much.
And the fact that that was a night where people did not get to go home after that, and parents didn't get to see their kid after that. Friends lost their other friends they went with. Like, it was just so much to process that even though we personally didn't see anything occur in front of our eyes, just being in that experience and knowing that we shared something where someone didn't leave that night and get to go home was just, it really got in all of our heads. Like that night we couldn't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's all we could talk about. Our moods completely shifted.
Because it was just like, bro, like we went to a place where like 8 people died.
It was just a lot to process,
supposed to,
I would say.
how are you supposed to process? Like there is no like right or wrong way to process it. It's just like it happened, and it's just like this huge shock factor of like, damn, bro, like this really happened in a place we went to, and like these dudes went there with their friends and these girls went with their friends, and this 9-year-old kid was a part of it too, which I don't think he should have been there in the first place. But just the fact of the matter is that he was there, and hear all this news coming out was just like, damn, like we were just having fun that whole time, and then we didn't know any of this shit was happening.
So I can't imagine what it's like for people that did see something, because for me, even not seeing anything, and it's selfish, but I'm glad I didn't, because I know it would have like haunted me forever.
Yeah. 100%.
But even to not see anything and still feel that way, I can't imagine what people who did see something are going through. And it truly is like emotional distress. Like these people experience something that they are going to have to carry on forever.
Yeah. Like when those guys were talking in the elevator, man, like I said, you could just tell the amount of distress in their voice and, their tone and the way they were, even with their eyes, like you could just tell, like, bro, these guys really witnessed something that they wish they didn't witness,
And even the girls that I saw, like there was people trying to get out. Like I saw a girl crying. I saw another girl who was like visibly, like I saw her having a panic attack because she was just like, I need to get out. I need to get out. And I just felt so bad because I couldn't give them space to get out. And even his brother was trying to help these 2 girls get out. and he was like, let me try and move. And he was like, I'm sorry, like I can't move. And they were like, it's fine, we know, like it's just too many people.
And when people were during all the swaying that was going on and people were packed on top of each other and like literally about to fall backwards, the only way to like, as another human, I guess, to prevent that was literally
to hold each other
and kind of just like, you know, squat down a little bit, spread your legs, and kind of like build this force field barrier around you to like make sure no one else falls on top of you. So that's kind of like what I had to do, and my cousin as well. Like we just like, because I had my arm around her like this, so I was like coming to like this position of like, okay, I got to create this barricade so we don't fall over, which thankfully we didn't fall over. But if we didn't create that barricade, there could have been times where we did fall over.
It's interesting that you guys are saying that like when people were leaving, everything just kind of happened calmly, but obviously before that it was crazy, which kind of shows that like things could have went differently during the show, because people did have the ability to be like leave in a timely manner, because they could get out and nothing happened. You know, people weren't rushing and, you know, trampled afterwards. It was during the show. So it just shows that it could have happened differently also.
And I think if Travis had just taken the time, instead of just stopping and saying, oh, like this person needs help, let's get him some help. That's one person that you are calling out right now. That doesn't help the mass. I think if he would have just taken the time, and especially coming from him, like these people were going crazy because of him, right?
Yeah.
So if he would have taken that moment to understand that he has power over the situation, because these people are going to listen to him. If they don't listen to anyone else, they're not going to listen to the security guards. They're not going to listen to anyone. If he just said it from his point of view and he was like, hey, let's all give each other some space. Let's just step back, take a minute, you know, just relax, help your partner out, all of that. I think it definitely would have made a difference, instead of just saying, oh, like this one person needs help. Like there was so many people in that crowd that needed help.
Yeah. Like I don't like, people shouldn't completely trash him. He, like she said, he does need to take accountability on a lot of things. I believe that. And, you know, it was his concert, even though, you know, regardless if he had the right to shut it down or not, like,
I think he still could have.
Yeah.
There's still some accountability.
I think it becomes a legal versus like a moral thing. Legally, you may not be obligated, but you hope that if you're seeing your favorite artist live and they notice there's an issue, they'll intervene, right?
Yeah.
I want to sort of ask you too. There are people who say, okay, well, we all know what a Travis Scott concert is. We all know he's about raging. We all know he's about getting wild. There have been people who've jumped from balconies before. Like, y'all know he gets crazy. Moving forward, do you think that sort of theme narrative around him has to change? Like, would you go to another Travis Scott show based off of what you had today? Or, you know, do you think there has to be changes to that culture?
So we've actually both thought about this, you know, like even like festivals moving forward in general.
So
like
we were gonna go to Day in Vegas, which is this weekend. We have tickets. The wristbands are sitting on our counter right now. And so Astroworld was last weekend. We were gonna go to Day in Vegas this weekend. We decided not to go. Mainly, I just was not in the mood to do that right now.
To be honest, I was still down to go. I had told her like we would go, just like
not in the front.
Mosh, just like kind of just be in the back, which is all good. Like, you know, you could still do this in the back and then vibe in the back. She was just too like physically and emotionally tired of the whole thing. Like,
didn't want to deal with that. I was not in the mood to be around that many people. And festivals moving
forward, I told her we should just like, you know, let's lay low on the mosh. Let's just like go stay in the back. We can still have fun in the back and stuff like that. That's what any festivals we do going forward, that's what we're going to end up doing. Specifically for Travis, like he does straight up, he's had a history of, you know, inciting 2013, rage. 2014, inciting rages, inciting violence. Like he's had that history. But I personally feel like through those times were like, you know, I want to say he's learned from those times. I want to say that. Now I can't confirm that because obviously I don't know him. No one knows him. But, you know, I want to say that he did improve since those times, which he was, you know, back in 2018, 2019, when he was doing Astro, this never happened. And that was like the peak of his career. Like, you know, the McDonald's collaboration, you know, PlayStation, like people are like really looking up to this guy. He got a key to the city from the mayor of Houston. He's planting these plants in these gardens for homeless people. Like he's, building these shelters. Like he's doing a lot of great things for, those people in Houston. So I don't want his whole reputation to be tarnished in that way. Like I said, he still needs to be accountable for the things that did happen over there, and he still needs to, face those consequences, because ultimately, like, your name is attached to it, bro. Like, your album's called Astroworld, your festival's called Astroworld. Like, you have to take some sort of accountability to that. But as far as his image of as a rager, I think he might change his image. Personally, for us, like I just told you, like, I don't know if there's another Travis concert, which I don't think there'll be another Astroworld for a minute, and I also think he's gonna postpone his album as well at this point, because of what has happened. And so, just the way we approach specifically his concerts will just be like we said about Vegas. Like if we do go, like, she's seen him 3 times now, I've seen him twice. Like, I don't need to like physically go up to see him up close anymore. I have a lot of photos and videos of him up close. And so, if we go, we're just gonna be in the back. We'll be vibing in the back, if we happen to go to these events, and not really take part in the super crazy stampede or mosh that occurs. What's interesting though, I was watching on Twitter, Kendrick Lamar was trending because he performed on yesterday. And he the whole crowd was like dead, and it was like Kendrick, and like the whole crowd was like, kind of just doing his thing. And I think that whole crowd saw what happened at Astro and was like, even these festivals like Day in Vegas and even Coachella and like all of these big festivals that happened, they looked at this event, they looked at the Astroworld news, and they're thinking to themselves now, okay, how do we change how we approach festivals? How do we make it a safer environment for the people that come here? So, and since, that whole crowd was like, it was dead. Like there wasn't barely anyone jumping, and I thought that was pretty ironic. I mean,
it's different mood of music, maybe.
It was, there was, he played his bangers. Kendrick has a lot of bangers, but just the overall feeling of, people witnessed the news last week, so now everyone's being more cautious. It sucks that it had to take such a tragedy for people to realize to just be nice to each other in concerts, because you can still be nice to each other. You could still see your artist up close
and have fun.
Still have fun at the same time. That's exactly what I thought Miami was. I thought Miami was a great time. Everyone was having fun. We still got close. We were still moshing, and everyone was still nice to each other. You want to get out? Here's a pathway. We just opened up a pathway for you to get out. Everyone was nice to each other.
I mean, someone made a comment to me, and I was like, relax. Like,
I was like, bro, like, why you gotta make these disses for? Like,
it was just we were waiting for Travis, and we were like sardine. And I saw people trying to get to the front. Like, that's why it was happening. Like, we had no space, and people were trying to make space to get to the front. And I saw these people, and I was like, stop trying to get to the front. And I just said it out loud because I was just so annoyed at that point. And this guy looks me dead in the eyes, and he's like, then what are you trying to do? And I was like, bro, I'm just standing here. Like, I'm just trying to get some space. And he's like, yeah, sure. I was like, okay. Bro, as he continued to go to the front.
You're just bulldozing people, or you're just tearing people down. Like, don't say anything. I literally said out loud at some point, I was like, you guys are acting like animals. Like, you guys need to chill out, bro. Like, you got people that are like 4'8", 4'7" in this crowd that are literally can't even do this because they're too short, And there was a 13-year-old kid next to us too in the crowd. And I was talking to this kid. I said, bro, like, why are you here? Like, this is like quite dangerous for a kid your age. And he's like, oh, I'm here with my older brother. I said, how old is he? He's like 15. Like, 15. Like,
now there was a woman next to him.
There was a woman next to him.
So I don't know
if he was related to this woman.
The guy next, his brother seemed older. So I don't know if we heard him wrong, because it's possible. But it was just crazy that we saw a 13-year-old there, like right next to us. I was like, what in the world?
And at that point, as just like a side subject, I don't think parents should be letting young kids.
Honestly, it shouldn't have.
There definitely should be an 18 and up.
There should be a certain age restriction limit for these events, especially especially if you know Travis Scott. There should have been a restriction of age. Yeah, I think 18 would have been fine.
Or like if you want to be in a certain area, like if you want to be in that front area, you have to be a certain, like if you're in the back, like not necessarily that show, but like for shows like that, maybe there should be an area for younger kids with people with,
exactly.
So
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I agree with that. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, bro, it's just very poorly managed concert. Like that's just what it was. Like human stupidity, the drugs, and understaffing /
And there was just too many
ambulance.
people. It was definitely over
makes sense.
capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think going into this, we suspected that there was like, there's not a single person or thing at fault. It's a series of failures. And I think this definitely confirmed that for us, especially the crowd. That's something that I didn't even consider. It's so easy to point, to the police and to the organizers and to the performer, but the crowd has a role to play in this too. And I appreciate you guys for like, highlighting that.
Yeah, no. And you brought up, that's good that you, brought that up, because I've seen a lot of people on social media talking about, blame this person, blame Travis, blame the cops, blame the security. Like, think about the crowd for a second. Like, the crowd had such an impact on what had happened over there, because like if it wasn't for the crowd, honestly, if it was not for the crowd, 8 people wouldn't have died, like straight up. Like it was because of the crowd, because people were jumping on each other, literally crushing people's lungs and bones and, this and that. It's just no one had any regard for human life at that point. They were just like, I'm selfish.
It was like they
I
had
want to go
tunnel
see Travis
vision
up
towards
close.
Travis.
Screw everyone else. I just want to do this. No one had zero regard.
And it was
for
weird. And you literally saw that because after the concert, everyone was fine. After he left the stage, everyone was fine.
Yeah, it was like everyone just all of a sudden turned the animal switch off, and it's like, okay, let's just walk to our car. Like, let's just walk to our car now. Like, that was not the energy before.
That's why I wonder what would have happened if the whole thing could have been ended early. But honestly, I think you all summed it up best. And honestly, I really appreciate you all being willing to like.
Yeah, I think if it ended early, could have avoided all the deaths, and I think we would be less.
And the ironic part is he did stop the concert 4 times, but never, right after he stopped it, he would just say like, let's get the ground shaking, like let's shake, let's cuss the ground. Like he started hyping it up again, and you're like, you just stopped the concert, and you're like saying, oh, like let's help this person out, and then he starts raging again. And like, I get it. It's your concert. You want to hype people up for that. That's what you're here for. That's your music.
We were those people that did rage with him. But like I said, we were unaware of what was happening all the time.
At the same time, like you have to have some awareness to maybe be like, hey, like, let's take a break, something like that.
Yeah.
So I think having that power, he definitely could have made an impact, and it just didn't happen.
You're completely right. It was Travis, it was organizers, it was the crowd, it was everyone. And honestly, I really appreciate both of you being willing to come on and like relive that, because I know y'all managed to like get out safe, and you still have some good memories from that night, but I just can't imagine like having to, just knowing you're a part of that. I know that could be difficult. So I thank you guys for talking to us, and we really appreciate it.
We're glad we can kind of
I'm glad we talked
our
about
perspective.
This is a good conversation.
Interviews like that are exactly why I feel like it was so important to talk to people who were actually at Astroworld, because like, again, no matter how much reporting you may read, you get so much additional context from that firsthand account. So again, like, huge thanks to Safi and Aliza Khan for giving us their time and breaking all of that down. Did anything surprise you guys the most? Like, I can say for me, and this is the reason I kind of dug on it during the interview, it's like the idea that there was supposedly 500 police officers there and they didn't see one throughout the, while they were in there. I
think just the fact of like hearing, I know some news orgs have like gotten people who were there, but just like hearing, like talking to someone who was there and hearing like they couldn't move, or like comparing it to another festival of like, oh, in Miami they were really nice, but in Houston they were like kind of rude. So it's kind of like hearing, those are details that you don't get from just like reading reporting. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, maybe it just shows that like, because obviously a lot of the discussion's been like what the police could have done, what the what Travis could have done. Like I like how they like highlighted like people could have been better too. Like people could have been better people.
Where's our humanity?
Yeah, where's humanity? And like I mean, I think people have mentioned that, but that has been what like the story has been. But like people could have been overall better in terms of making sure this didn't happen, making sure people around them are safe.
I just can't
overall
believe they
couldn't
weren't
happen, so.
scanning wristbands. I cannot
that's
believe they weren't
insane.
scanning.
Yeah.
But again, like I just our thank yous again to Safi and Eliza for breaking that down for us. And honestly, we know this is a bit of a heavier episode, so we appreciate you for sticking around and listening to the full thing. But you know, it's a really important topic, and I think it's important that we give it sort of the intention and sort of just attention that it deserves, honestly. So
Totally.
next week we'll be back with a little bit more of a normal episode. We'll get headlines again and new releases and all that fun stuff. I think we're doing reviews, so you have that in store. But we appreciate you guys for sitting through this one and joining us for this tough conversation.